This is Matthew Brenner. Today is March 28th, 2017. An honest conversation about fake news.
So much fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news. Fake news is everywhere.
November 9th, 2016, Donald J. Trump was declared the winner of the 2016 election. And after that, bullshit everywhere. The whole fake news meme was born. So I started my channel and this podcast, if you like, that I do here and there and different things to protect free speech and, moreover, dispel fake news and bullshit. Just to show you a smattering of fake news, especially CNN fake news, here's a little something I put together.
Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us. And in full disclosure, let's take a look at what is in there. And
when I say fake news, I mean stories that are designed to trick people into believing lies. Deception 101.
But U.S. officials tell CNN the Russian hacks continue around the clock. Phishing attempts targeting private email accounts associated with Hillary Clinton's campaign as recently as December 6th.
It's a continuing effort to collect intelligence.
Adam Myers specializes in cyber intelligence with the firm CrowdStrike, which investigated the Russian hacks for the Democratic Party. Myers and other experts have new information tonight on operations inside Putin's hacking teams, which they say are as talented as they come.
When it comes to espionage and offense, they are fantastic. They are close to the best in the world, probably right after our own here in the United States.
She will, remind me I said this, you can run this tape, she will crush him. I mean, she could crush him from jail.
Hillary, you're a lawyer. Walk in, go to the Supreme Court. I believe in you, Hillary. I've been to Rwanda. I've been to your hospital in Rwanda. I've seen all the good you've done. I believe in you. Women need you. Minorities need you. I need you. Chicago needs you. We all need you. This country needs you to stand up and walk into the Supreme Court and say one vote equals one vote. What's wrong with that? What's the debate?
I definitely feel his passion. There's other people out here who feel the same way.
At
one point, you had people who were blocking this road. Chicago police moved in. Everything has remained peaceful. Like I said, Don, as you see, thousands of people still continue to gather. But like you heard this man, very passionate about the idea. He doesn't want Hillary to stop.
Yeah, Brian, you know I used to live there, and I know that guy. That's John Gerkovic. He actually went to Africa with me as a cameraman. But anyway, that's another story. All right, thank you, John. Thank you very much, Ryan.
President Trump is claiming, and the White House is reaffirming, the fiction that millions of illegal votes were cast in the 2016 election. It is empirically a stunning allegation for which the White House is providing no evidence. And there is a reason they are providing no evidence. There is no evidence. It is not true.
And some of that news coverage has shown how the attendance at his inaugural does not measure up to past inaugural attendances, most notably Barack Obama's in 2009. As you heard, he lashed out at the CIA.
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he was watching CNN fake news. What do you think?
fake news is the worst thing that you can call a journalist. It's like an ethnic disparagement. You know, we all have these ugly words for people. That's the one for journalists. And saying that the media is fake news when it's so insulting without basis.
That is what fake news is. It is news that is specifically crafted to fool people into believing untrue things.
The originators of fake news are the people who harp on fake news.
Dear mainstream media, you've betrayed your profession. You've sacrificed its once sacred principles. And you've stabbed the American people in the back. Kindly fuck off and leave the rest of us to do your job for you.
Ah, yes, fond memories. I had so much fun putting that together. But anyway, the problem is, whether it's left-wing MSM or right-wing independent or alternative media, you end up with this echo chamber based upon whichever side you land on. So that's how things work out. Pizzagate, that was dubbed fake news by MSM, and Alex Jones recently did his apology. February 1st, he did a podcast with Joe Rogan where the subject came up, And then James Alefantis sent him a lawsuit, so he had issued a retraction quite recently.
I'm going to read to you from a statement that's also posted to Infowars.com that I wrote yesterday. Last fall, before the presidential election, a large number of media outlets began reporting on allegations arising from emails released by WikiLeaks that appeared to come from John Podesta, who served President Clinton and Obama and was the chairman of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Dozens of those stories and articles raised or discussed theories that some of Podesta's emails contained code words for human trafficking and/or pedophilia. Stories also included allegations connecting members of the Democratic Party with a number of restaurants allegedly involved with a child sex ring. These stories were cited and discussed in social media and went viral on the internet. One of the persons mentioned in many of the stories in the media was a Washington, D.C. restaurant owner named James Alefantis and his pizza restaurant, Comet Ping Pong. It is fair to say that Mr. Alefantis is a prominent individual who has been mentioned as a power player in Washington. Mr. Alefantis and his restaurant were mentioned in many stories published by a lot of different outlets. Mr. Alefantis was quoted in many subsequent stories, and he denied any involvement in such reported child sex rings. These denials were reported in the national media and many other outlets and news websites. The volume of stories was substantial, generating national headlines and came to be known across the country as Pizzagate. We at Infowars became part of that national discussion. We broadcast commentary about the allegations and the theory that the emails contained code words. We raised questions about information in Mr. Podesta's emails and in the Comet Ping Pong restaurant. We believed at the time that further investigation was necessary. In December of 2016, we disassociated ourselves from the Pizzagate claims and theories, a position we reiterated last month after being contacted by Mr. Alefantis. In late February of 2017, we received a letter from Mr. Alefantis asking that we retract certain statements that he says were made in 7 of our broadcasts between the last week of November and the first week of December in 2016. We have attempted through our lawyers to contact Mr. Alefantis to discuss with him what sort of statement he would like to see made. In our commentary about what had become known as Pizzagate, I made comments about Mr. Alefantis that in hindsight I regret and for which I apologize to him. We were participating in a discussion that was being written about by scores of media outlets in one of the most hotly contested and disputed political environments our country has ever seen. We relied on third-party accounts of alleged activities and conduct at the restaurant. We also relied on accounts of reporters who were no longer with us. This was an ever-evolving story, which had a huge amount of commentary about it across many, many media outlets. As I have said before, what became a heightened focus on Mr. Alefantis and Comet Ping Pong by many media outlets was not appropriate. To my knowledge today, neither Mr. Alefantis nor his restaurant, Comet Ping Pong, were involved in any human trafficking, as was part of the theories about Pizzagate that were being written about in the media outlets and which we commented upon. I want our viewers and listeners to know that we regret any negative impact our commentaries may have had on Mr. Alefantis, Comet Ping Pong, or its employees. We apologize to the extent our commentaries could be considered as negative statements about Mr. Alefantis or Comet Ping Pong, and we hope that anyone else involved in commenting on Pizzagate will do the same thing. Here's what we've done to clarify to the public. Months ago, we took down the majority of broadcasts and videos, including ones that only passingly mentioned Pizzagate. This happened months before we were even contacted by Mr. Alefantis. Mr. Alefantis objected to portions of 7 particular radio/TV broadcasts. We have taken down those 7 broadcasts, and we have attempted to take down any broadcast that mentioned Mr. Alefantis or Comet Ping Pong. We have attempted to do so not just on our website, but also on social media sites such as our YouTube channel. If Mr. Alefantis has any other objections, we invite him to let us know. 2 reporters who used to be associated with us are no longer with us. In a recent broadcast, I invited Mr. Alefantis on our program to state what he wanted to, and I again do so here. He has given interviews to many media outlets, and he is welcome to come on our show. In issuing this statement, we are not admitting that Mr. Alefantis or his restaurants have any legal claim. We do not believe they do, but we are issuing this statement because we believe it's the right thing to do. It will be no surprise to you that we will fight for children across America. But the Pizzagate narrative, as least as concerning Mr. Alefantis and Comet Ping Pong, we have subsequently determined was based upon what we now believe was an incorrect narrative. Despite the fact that we were far from the genesis of this story, it is never easy to admit when your commentaries are based on inaccurate information. But we feel like we owe it to you, the listeners, viewers, and supporters to make that statement and to give an apology to you and Mr. Alefantis when we do. We encourage you to hold us accountable because we improve when you do.
Well, many YouTubers, including Titus Frost, were unhappy about this. He went off.
I didn't have time to address this over the weekend because I was at the Pizzagate protest. However, I did see this before the Pizzagate protest, and it has to do with the protest itself, and I'm pretty angry about what I'm going to be addressing in this video. So I will likely be age restricting this after I upload it to the internet because I'm about to do a lot of swearing here. Okay, so Alex Jones comes out and apologizes to James Alefantis for even mentioning Pizzagate on InfoWars website. And people had speculated before that James Alefantis, had put pressure on InfoWars through their connections in order to get this covered up. And obviously Alex Jones got rid of Rambo Biggs, and I think it's pretty obvious that he did that now because Rambo Biggs covered Pizzagate. Okay, now Alex Jones, why would you come out the day before the protest, literally the day I'm driving down there to cover the protest, and apologize to James Alefantis? 3 people at the protest told me they almost didn't show up at it because Alex Jones said Pizzagate was fake. Alex Jones, Pizzagate has never been investigated. It has never been debunked. You are a fucking COINTELPRO agent. You're a fat fucking scam artist, fucking bullshit artist. Go fuck yourself, Alex Jones. Show me your fucking evidence that you've come up with that says all of this is fake. Where's the evidence? Where's anything but your fucking apology to some guy that's likely running human trafficking? Where's the investigation? Where's the evidence that says all that stuff that we found in the back end of their website was fake? Go fuck yourself, Alex Jones. I'm so sick and tired of your fucking bullshit. Your fucking controlled demolition, fucking nonsense. Never mentioning Zionism, never mentioning anything important on your channel that gets millions of viewers. And you know why you have to disable the comments on your video apologizing to James Alefantis? Because you don't want your viewers to see how bullshit you are. You're trying to, disable free speech and censor people from disagreeing with you because you're full of shit. So fuck you, Alex Jones.
A couple of days after 60 Minutes took up the topic of fake news.
The president uses the term fake news to...
When 60 Minutes producers turned their attention to fake news this week, they first had to agree on a definition.
This is a very loaded term. It's come to mean different things. The way President Trump uses it is very different from the way you use it in the story.
Right. The way politicians use it is to say, I don't like what you said, I take offense with what you said, that's fake news. We're using the term fake news to describe stories that are provably false.
So the 60 Minutes team went in search of people who've published fake news on the internet.
I wrote fake obituaries, fake horoscopes, fake local business content, fake local sports content, fake local news content.
Justin Kohler admitted that making up fake news was fun.
Fun.
It was fun.
One of your most successful stories was about an Ebola outbreak in Texas that never happened. Tell me about that.
So we did, an outbreak in a town in Texas of Ebola. The media was talking about Ebola like it was going to be the end of times. We named it our Fear Ebola campaign.
But you were trying to get people to believe it.
Well, we were, sure.
It was gratifying.
Right,
for him.
gratifying, addictive. It is, it's powerful, right? To create something out of whole cloth and have people believe that it's true.
This is something a lot of people are talking about right now, fake news. But is this really something new?
No. Fake news, propaganda, it's as old as cuneiform. From the moment the first person sat down with a stick and wrote in clay, they wrote a lie. And if it was about the king or the queen or the guy down the block, it's been going on forever. One thing that Kohler said I thought was interesting is that he did not see himself any different than a fiction writer. There's fiction and there's fact, and they shouldn't be intermingled.
And then there's Michael Cernovich.
I remember when I hit 10,000, I was like, wow, 10,000 Twitter followers? I can't believe it.
He runs a one-man social media empire out of his home, and he claims everything he publishes is true.
What stories have you published that turned out to not be right?
None that come to mind.
None
that come to mind, no.
The 60 Minutes team reported that Cernovich's articles include a fake sex cult story about Hillary Clinton's inner circle. Another falsely reported that Clinton has Parkinson's.
Then you look at the number of times that these stories have been circulated, and it's in the millions. It's in the millions. For example, Michael Cernovich last month had 83 million Twitter impressions. Well, 60 Minutes had 3 million Twitter impressions. So this guy's getting more traction on Twitter than 60 Minutes is.
Who is consuming fake news? A lot of people, millions of people on both the left and the right, and giving legitimate news organizations a run for their money.
These news stories are fakes.
They're definitely not fake.
They're lies.
They're not lie at all. 100% true.
Was there sort of this Kafka-esque feeling there where you've got two people talking and, one says, up is down and the other says down is up, and definitions aren't the same?
The definitions aren't the same, and getting into an argument about it is like going down the rabbit hole. And it wasn't our job to go down the rabbit hole. It was our job to interview him and understand how he makes the decisions he makes.
How do you decide whether something is true?
How does anybody decide? That's an epistemological question. What is the nature of truth? How does anybody ascertain what is true or what is false?
Well, you ask questions, you verify the information. It's not that hard.
You reach your own, the truth, finding the truth is not that hard?
I do it all the time.
There seem to be two men with different definitions of what's fake and what's real.
Yeah. One of the issues with this story, with this topic, is that there is a basic fundamental disagreement right now in the country about what is false information. And that is a place where really we haven't gone before.
Once I started diving into this story, I am startled by the notion that millions of people who cannot tell the difference are using fake news to inform their everyday lives.
Stefan Monlyneux of Free Domain Radio, a YouTuber I like, did a commentary piece.
Recently, Mike Cernovich, Southern California lawyer, was interviewed on 60 Minutes, and they interviewed him actually for about an hour, but they slashed and sliced it down to a tiny box of fairly snipey hit jobbery, which we're going to have a little look at now. Now, for those who don't know, Mike is a friend of mine. I've always said that courage is the first virtue, because without courage, you really can't achieve any of the other virtues. He does display that virtue in abundance, and just wanted to put that out up front. So to open the segment, which was about fake news, which interestingly enough has become a huge issue for the media after Donald Trump won the election. Does anyone seriously believe that the media would be wringing themselves into Victorian Gordian knots about fake news if Hillary Clinton had won the election? No. There's a competitor to the traditional influence of the mainstream media throughout American life and throughout the life of the West. There's a new competitor to the media, which is what's called the alternative media, or the unbiased media, or the unbought media, or the customer-focused media, or the has variety and diversity media, whatever you want to call it. So they're facing this challenge, and so they're doing this stuff on Hit News. So the piece opened with Scott Pelley saying, In this last election, the nation was assaulted by imposters masquerading as reporters. Now, I don't actually often agree with the mainstream media, and I don't think I would agree with them in the way that they would expect, but I actually do kind of agree with that. There were some imposters masquerading as reporters in the last election cycle. So, but assaulted, you see, assaulted, that's a loaded gun phrase, right? I mean, well, there were people out there with opinions that were different. There were people out there with some unsourced data, which of course is the mainstream media, with their anonymous sources all over the place. He goes on to say, they poisoned the conversation with lies on the left and on the right. Many did it to influence the outcome of the election. Others just to make a buck. Oh, Scott, oh, Scott, oh, Scott. The American media used to be a little bit more diverse. It's kind of been boiled down to the 6 major corporations, which now own 90+% of the American news organizations and the American news outlets and so on. Tons of conflicts of interest in the American media. Jeff Bezos of Amazon owns the Washington Post and has a fairly untrumpeted $600 million deal with the CIA, which may affect security coverage. Carlos Slim, robber baron in Mexico, owns significant portions of the New York Times, and he has a goal to push illegal immigration or legalization, because people from Mexico go to America and then send back remittances, which are then used to buy Carlos Slim's products in Mexico. So lots of conflicts of interest. So the idea that, particularly in Washington, where the vast majority of reporters donate to the Democrats, they are on the left. The idea that these true echo chambers of mainstream media, at least if you're in the alternative media, you have to research the mainstream media. If you're in the mainstream media, you're just all talking back and forth to each other, and it's a real echo chamber. And he starts off by saying, the president uses the term fake news to discredit responsible reporting that he doesn't like. See, again, they can't help themselves. They're talking about real news versus fake news, opinion journalism versus fact-based journalism, because opinions, doesn't have to be sourced or anything. It's just what you think. I like ice cream. Look, there's my contribution. Where's my Pulitzer for reporting? But when they say the president uses the term fake news to discredit responsible reporting that he doesn't like, where the hell is the source for that? Where the hell are the facts about that? That's not source. That's pure opinion journalism. In 60 Minutes, where they're talking about an examination of fake news. Do you understand? They can't help themselves. It's a weird compulsion. So Scott Pelley at 60 Minutes goes on to say, but we're going to show you how con artists insert truly fake news into the national conversation with fraudulent software that scams your social media account. The stories are fake, but the consequences are real. Bum, bum, bum. And before we get into the details, let's do the big picture, right? There's survey after survey after survey showing that the American public does not trust the mainstream media. It's abysmal. They just don't trust the American media. So they're going elsewhere for their facts. The second thing is the people on the left have a very, very big problem in that they predicted that Hillary was going to win, particularly the mainstream media on the left. Overwhelmingly, confidently predicted that Hillary was going to win, and Hillary lost. So there's a huge crack in the narrative. And how on earth are you going to maintain any credibility when you keep getting things wrong? Let's just be as nice as possible. Let's not say it's lying. Maybe they truly believe it. When you keep getting things wrong and getting things wrong and getting things wrong and getting things wrong, why on earth should people believe you? Well, when you're doing badly in the marketplace, when your demographic, the people who watch you are all dying off because they're old, and when people don't believe anything that comes out of your mouth. Good evening, lied the mainstream media. Well, what do? Well, you can either improve your own product or you can attack your competitors. So let's be very, very clear about what is going on here. So Scott Pelley, in describing Mike Cernovich at dangerandplay.com, said he reached Twitter followers 83 million times last month. And Mike said, that was a slow month too. We hit 150 million sometimes. Now, in one of the other segments, the overtime segment, they reported from 60 Minutes that 60 Minutes gets 3 million Twitter impressions, right? 150 million Twitter impressions for Mike Cernovich, 3 million Twitter impressions for 60 Minutes. So this is supposed objective reporting when there's a clear conflict of interest in that 60 Minutes is attacking a competitor and a vastly more successful competitor in Twitter impressions than they are. So imagine that you're running some failing restaurant, some fantastic restaurant opens across the street, and they're taking away your business and you're going down, and people don't want to eat at your restaurant anymore because they don't trust the quality of the food. People have gotten sick, people aren't. So imagine you're the owner of the failing restaurant, massive successful restaurant opens across the street, and then you claim to write some objective review about the food in that restaurant. Oh, come on. Come on. Everybody knows it's not objective. They're hitting out at a competitor who's outstripping them. And rather than improve their own internal processes, rather than say, hey guys, real echo chamber in here, let's get some libertarians in here, let's get some conservatives in here, let's mix things up a little, let's find a way to appeal to all the people who voted for Donald Trump. Gave him a massive electoral college victory. Let's shake things up in here. Let's redo things. Let's figure out where we've gone wrong, what we did wrong, and really improve our product. No. Let's not do that. Let's just call everyone else fake news. Yeah, that's really going to work. Because we never redefine things ourselves. We never call illegal immigrants undocumented migrants or whatever, right? Now, they complain a lot, of course, about people are falling for this fake news. And as Mike points out later, it's an epistemological problem. How do you know what is true and what is false? It's a big, challenging problem, right? Metaphysics, a study of what is real. Study of reality. What is reality? Epistemology, the study of truth. What is true? The ethics, the study of what you should do, what is moral, and so on.
I like Stefan Monlyneux, and I like his analysis for the most part. But Thunderfoot, another one of my favorite YouTubers, did a little expose on Mr. Molyneux. Shall we listen?
You support me being shot. You don't keep people in your life who want you shot. You don't hang with people who want you shot.
Do you want to move forward toward freedom and enlightenment? Or do you want to fall back into your old dirty ways?
Because how can I have even a shred of self-esteem, a shred of pride in my own existence, if I'm willing to hang out with people who want me shot? I mean, that's sick.
Two trademarks are intolerance to criticism, and secondly, asking the members to cut themselves off from family members and other people who might criticize their beliefs, usually with some crazy acronym.
This idea of cutting people off, defooing, as you call it, cutting people off, it makes them nervous.
Why?
Because that's
why?
I mean, this is it's a principal directive of cults.
It's not. It's not.
That's
otherwise,
not a principal directive of cults
because
to cut
otherwise,
people out of your life?
No.
Scientology is great for this stuff, almost having their own language. You know, SPs are suppressive persons, and disconnecting is basically shunning, and so on. Now, not only does Stefan Monlyneux advocate leaving families because they don't accept his particular brand of anarcho-capitalism, more on that later, but his wife did too, on their podcast. Now, it turns out she's a clinical psychologist, and she got reprimanded for that, which is, as you might expect, a matter of public record. And this is all from the agreed statement of fact. That is, this is what his wife agreed to. The member, that's her, made general statements and provided advice both in general terms and directed towards particular individuals that are not supported by current professional literature or consistent with the standards. In presenting information that is not representative of the discipline and profession of psychology, and which could be harmful to a member or members of the public, while using and relying upon her qualification and registration as a registered psychological associate member of the college, the member acted in a manner that would be reasonably be regarded by members as disgraceful, dishonorable, or unprofessional, which just throws into perspective how dishonest Stefan is willing to be here.
This practice of defooing, it's pretty widely criticized, right? I mean, your wife got in trouble for this, for advocating this on your show, right?
No.
She didn't?
No.
Didn't she get suspended? Didn't she have...
No, none of that is true.
So that's just lies. It's online.
Yeah, none of it is true.
They reprimanded her for professional misconduct. She had to go through a year of peer mentoring and have to report to the registrar every 3 months and to attend courses. And yes, she was given a suspension that would actually be suspended if she didn't engage in any more professional misconduct.
She was never suspended. Her practice continued. They had some questions about the podcast, and in the end of it, they said, listen, we thought that maybe you had been given advice without giving a full psychological question or workup.
The member acted in a manner that would reasonably be regarded by members as disgraceful, dishonorable, or unprofessional.
The quote that I had written down was that she had been told her statements were in support of defooing are not supported by current professional or consistent with...
That was in the complaint. The final result was that defooing is perfectly consistent with best psychological practices.
Really, Stefan? Which is why your wife, of course, wasn't reprimanded for professional misconduct. And, of course, because there's nothing wrong with defooing, she kept advocating it on your podcast. Oh, no, hang on. No, wait, she didn't. Turns out a couple of the reasons they went easy on her is, first of all, they went through her files, and it turns out she hadn't been advocating her actual patients to defoo. And secondly, the panel further noted that when informed of the complaint, Ms. Papadopoulos immediately stopped all participation and shut down the podcast. Ms. Papadopoulos further agreed not to provide advice or counselling of a psychological nature in any podcast or internet-based broadcast, and or make public statements involving conflict with and alienation and or dissociation from family of origin or otherwise in the future. And there is absolutely nothing in this report about Stefan's idea that defooing from families is consistent with best psychological practices.
You don't go on little shopping excursions with a mother who wants you shot. You either have to give up your values as a libertarian, or you have to give up the people who want you shot.
The final result was that defooing is perfectly consistent with best psychological practices.
In summary, this was Stefan's bold-faced lie when he was caught banged to rights.
So the question basically becomes this. When you have somebody like Thunderfoot exposing Stefan Monlyneux for lying, you have somebody like Titus Frost calling out Alex Jones for being a so-called liar, not exposing Zionism. It seems to me that people should really try to do a more careful job in being accurate. But the last distinction I would like to draw here is I think that the mainstream media is primarily guilty of disinformation. In other words, they want you to believe their bullshit narrative when it suits them or it suits their masters. Whereas in independent media, alternative media, YouTube, there can be misinformation because the reporter or whoever doesn't do his or her due diligence and they misinform people. Alex Jones issued the retraction clearly because he had his ad roll taken away by Google, and now he doesn't want to lose more by going to court with Alefantis. But I think it's interesting. What would come up in discovery? What would a judge and jury see if they really looked into Comet Ping Pong? I don't think Alefantis would be happy about that, but I don't think Alex Jones wants to call Alefantis bluff. So in the comment section, feel free to write what your thoughts are on fake news and how you try to verify the news that you are consuming. And feel free to like this video. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. This is Matthew Brenner.